Tara Palmeri, who has covered the White House for ABC. She's covered the White House for Politico. And she is now an independent journalist with her Substack, The Red Letter. And she is joining us right now. Tara, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So what do you think about what's going on here? I think the more immediate thing this morning was this battle where the White House says, we're taking over the press briefing room. And the correspondents say, no, we're not down with that.
So there have been little steps that they've been taking so far to try to assert authority over the press and choose who they want in the room or near the president. And this is just the latest, probably most expansive use of their power or attempt to use power to control the press. And it's at a time when the White House Correspondents Association looks particularly weak, especially after having to pull their comedian. That was obviously a very poor choice to pick her, especially if she's saying up front, like, I think that these people are a bunch of murderers. I think calling them murderers is perhaps going over the line. So they're already in this sort of fight, with the administration that's banned the Associated Press for not calling the Gulf of Mexico.
That's the thing that stood out to me, Tara, is there was already this contention over access to the president, and the administration has made it clear that they are going to call the shots there. So it does seem like the Correspondents Association is kind of like impotent.
Yeah, I mean, is it an existential crisis for the White House Correspondents Association at this point?
I think it's a lot of negotiating behind the scenes, but I do actually agree in some ways with the idea that we need to open up the press briefing room. I mean, it should be more reflective of how people actually get their media, right? Not everyone is watching the networks anymore. And I say this as someone who used to be able to sit in the front row, and I sat in back rows as well. The media diet has changed of Americans, and it should reflect that. And so that there should be more podcast hosts, and there should be more independent journalists in there. The problem is that they're picking people who are just allies of the administration, and there needs to be some sort of give and take on that. I mean, the Huffington Post has been booted, and Breitbart is in. But you could also argue, why was Breitbart never in the to begin with, when they had a huge following as well?
But then, of course, the danger in all of this is then reporters maybe start thinking twice about their coverage. Maybe don't ask that extra tough question. Maybe don't include this extra fact in there, or else risk losing access, and that puts reporters in a tough place.
Yeah, maybe TV reporters are a little bit more careful. I've always found that part of the business to be a little bit more transactional anyway, because it is so access-based, and they do want those big gets and those big interviews, and they do want to be on air. So yeah, I think for them, this is an existential crisis. For the other journalists who can sort of, still do their jobs without the access, they'll be okay. I think as long, as you're dogged as a journalist, you'll get to the scoop. You should know that at TMZ. And you guys do it all the time. But yeah, for people who want to be on camera, it makes it a lot harder.
I agree that there should be podcasters allowed in there. There should be people who have Substack. By the way, I know you have your Substack. How's your White House access going? Are they granting one for you? Are you trying to get one?
No, I have been messaging with the communications director, Stephen Chung. I have a longstanding relationship with him since the first term when I was on network news. And he said, apply. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So and the thing that's interesting is, like, since I went independent and I have, a Substack, The Red Letter, which I hope you'll all subscribe to, and I am on YouTube at Tara Palmeri, they're actually more interested in what I'm putting out now than ever before, because they do realize the power of new media and how people are getting a lot of their news there. And Donald Trump used it on his pathway to the White House during the campaign. He sat down with very influential podcasters like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn. So they know that, like, podcasters and independent media journalists, they have a lot of power right now. After years of calling the mainstream media fake news, there's a new crowd out there, and they have a lot more credibility.
You're such an interesting person to talk about this because you know every aspect of this.
You've been on both sides of it.
And Tara, congratulations on the good work you're doing.
Thanks so much for having me on. A fan of your work for a long time. Happy to come back.